Joining us this morning, half of Arkansas's U.S. House delegation, 2nd District Congressman French Hill, and 3rd District Congressman Steve Womack. Welcome to you guys both. Thanks for joining us.
A pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Let's talk about the Highway Trust Fund. This is a very important issue for Arkansas that some people might not realize. The Highway Department has already pulled hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts down. This is obviously big business here. Where are we at right now? We'll start with Congressman Hill.
Well, the Congress has got a stopgap measure for the Highway Trust Fund that expires in July, with an eye that on a bicameral basis, both in the House and the Senate, they would look for a way to create a comprehensive multi-year highway plan. I'd love 5 to 7 years, for example. But we have not been presented with how to pay for that plan, and I think that's what the burden is in the Congress.
Republicans control both houses now. Why can't we get something long term?
Well, the Highway Trust Fund is one subject of many that can get caught up in the discussion about why you can't get something done. You got both chambers, but understand that while we have a pretty significant majority in the House, we have 54 votes in the Senate if we hold all those 54. And that's not a filibuster-proof majority, and it's certainly not a veto-proof majority. There are a lot of other things that we should be getting done with control of both chambers, but these are, like Highway Trust Fund, very complicated matters because the options that you have are so few, and it's all about funding. So, you know, I can't speak for French. I can just tell you that safe and reliable transportation infrastructure is critically important, particularly from the standpoint of creating economic prosperity. And we need to do a better job of taking care of this infrastructure. The problem is the Highway Trust Fund is not sufficient to be able to keep up with this activity. And as French has said, there's been a lot of jobs canceled in the state of Arkansas. So the missing ingredient here is how we coalesce around a way to pay for it. And if gas tax is off the table, if repatriation is off the table, then the options get fewer and fewer. So that's the elusive part of this entire debate. I think you'd get widespread agreement that we need something and we need a long-term bill. Just how do you pay for it?
When it comes, I was just going to ask, when it comes to funding and the gas tax, you know, as I think it hasn't been raised since 93.
Yeah.
Cars are going further. You're getting more mileage. You're collecting less, and we're needing more and more. Well, can you guys ever support? I mean,
well, the president's taken the gas tax off the table.
But what do you? I mean, would you advocate for that?
Well, I want to see what the package would be. One thing that I think that's important is that the money gets actually spent on highways, and there's some concern that through labor agreements under Davis-Bacon and non-highway money being spent out of the Highway Trust Fund, that maybe a quarter of our Highway Trust Fund is not spent to put pavement on the ground for our new highways. So I think how to pay for it, how to reform the bill to make sure we're getting the biggest bang for our buck is critical for the Congress to get that 5 to 7 year authorization.
You guys are Tea Party guys, I guess one could argue, and elected to cut taxes and cut. Some people might look at this and say, see, this is what happens. You cut. Now you have no money to pay for anything.
Well, I don't think that's right. I mean, the Highway Trust Fund has been declining, and yet the government has kept authorizing the spending even though the money wasn't coming in. So there's a management issue here at the Federal Highway Administration. This is not something that's happened overnight. The Highway Trust Fund's been declining over a number of years, but they've authorized spending beyond the money coming in. So this is a problem we need to solve long run.
The characterization of being Tea Party-ish is not entirely accurate. I think our side of the aisle agrees that we have a spending problem in Washington, D.C. What a lot of people are not willing to admit, maybe they can admit, but are not willing to tackle, is the fact that in 1962, 1/3 of government spending was mandatory spending. That number is now 2/3. So the pressure that mandatory spending, and I'm talking about the social safety net programs, near and dear to the hearts of a lot of Americans, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, net interest on the debt. Those programs account for 2/3 of government spending, and there are fewer and fewer dollars to spread across the spectrum of government that most people recognize. How do you pay for national defense? How do you build roads and bridges? How do you fund Pell Grants? How do you do the National Institutes of Health? Those are critical programs that are going wanting right now because more and more of our money is going to support the social safety net programs, and we are in desperate need of a bigger deal to tackle, reform those programs for long-term sustainability.
That doesn't seem like it jives well with a solution to this highway problem. I mean, are we going to lose out really on hundreds of millions of dollars? How painful is this going to be for Arkansas businesses?
Here's what is going to happen. I mean, we're going to be spending at FY15 levels, 2015 levels every month. The Congress is going to not stop spending on money on highways. They're going to extend that spending as long as they can. What Congressman Womack is talking about is how do we reach a compromise between the House and the Senate that President Obama can support that will fund a longer-term bill. And people are working on it. Chairman Schuster in the House, I know, works on this every single day looking for that solution. Congressman Ryan, who's in charge of the Ways and Means Committee, which is the way we pay for things, both are working hard on this. And I'm optimistic that they can put forward a plan. It's just that we have not had that plan presented to the full body in the House or the Senate yet.
I wanted to switch gears a little bit here, talk about the Supreme Court decision that came down as it relates to same-sex marriage. Right. We're going to start with Congressman Womack. Going forward, and we don't have too much time here, but going forward, we all know what's been said so far. What are Republicans going to do? What do you think is the next step?
I think that approach is still a bit unclear. My concern is that it goes directly to the sovereignty of a number of states, including Arkansas. You know, a constitutional amendment that bans same-sex marriage, and you know, we're talking about decades and decades of practice and custom and states' rights, and how the Supreme Court can interject itself into the lawmaking of this particular country at this time is troublesome to me. So that ruling, the Obamacare ruling, I mean, there's just a number of reasons why I think we should be very concerned about legislating from the bench at the Supreme Court level.
Quickly, Congressman Hill.
Yeah, I've got concerns, as I've said all along. I believe in the separation of powers, and I really believe that the Constitution's clear that judges determine what is the law, they don't make the law, and that should be left up to legislators both at the state and the federal level. And I wish this issue could have been worked on for a number of years and satisfied by the votes of the people in the state or at the federal level, like it really has and was actually happening. So I do share the concern over legislating from the bench, but I think we need to be focused on tolerance and understanding at this time, and also be respectful of people's different views and the need for protecting people's religious views in this instance as well.
All right. Thank you guys so much. We'll have to leave it at that. Obviously, a lot more to be talked about on both those issues.